In infancy, Piaget argued that children were in the sensorimotor stage. So in that stage, Piaget assumed that children understood the world through their senses directly and then through their ability to motor or move through their environment. So he broke the sensorimotor stage down into several substages where different kinds of circular reactions are displayed at different stages of development. So the first circular reaction would be the primary circular reactions. These are circular reactions that are designed to maintain pleasurable stimulation. So think about circular reactions as sort of getting stuck in a loop where you continue to do the exact same behavior over and over and over again. In this case, the purpose of the behavior is to maintain pleasurable stimulation. This stage tends to occur from birth through the newborn period. The first part of the primary circular reaction stage is called reflexes. And in babies who are between birth and about 4 weeks of age, we have reflexive behaviors that they can't help but do. Given the proper stimulation, they must display the behavior. So if you tickle a baby on their cheek, they can't help it but turn their head toward that tickle and root around looking for a nipple. If they find a nipple, they can't help but suck on it. If something comes out of the nipple, they can't help it but swallow it. These are a series of reflexes that must be displayed given the proper stimulation. So primary circular reactions start off as pure reflexes. Then the child, around a month after birth, will start to move into stage 2 of the primary circular reaction stage. And this is where they have acquired some adaptations. So now for about the second month of life, we're going to see babies doing behaviors that had started as reflexes: sucking, swallowing, these kinds of reflex behaviors, but now they're doing it as more of a habit. There's more learning involved. It's no longer purely reflexive. So a baby who has a pacifier, for example, they may have learned the strategy for sucking on the pacifier in such a way that they achieve the pleasurable sensation of sucking on the pacifier. That's something that they had to acquire. Previously, any sucking was just purely reflexive. So it's to keep that pleasurable stimulation going that they continue to move their jaw, move their tongue in a particular way so that the pacifier is sucked on. So that's what is meant by the stage 2 acquired adaptations. They may have to change a little bit the sucking strategy in order to accommodate a pacifier, or to accommodate a bottle, or to accommodate a breast, or maybe they've learned to suck their thumb. And so maybe they have to suck in a slightly different way than the reflex told them to, but they've adapted so that they can extend that pleasurable stimulation. The next big stage is called the secondary circular reactions. And in this stage, there's 2 parts again, but in this big stage, the purpose of the circular reaction is to maintain interesting things. So in stage 3 of the sensorimotor stage, which is the first stage of the secondary circular reaction stage, we're going to see babies engaging in behaviors that will maintain interesting sights. So they will do things to make sure that they can continue to see the thing that they want to see. So maybe they discover that when they laugh, and it might have been a kind of reflexive laugh at first, but when they laugh, it causes their parent to make that comical face again. And so they laugh in an effort to get the comical face again. Or maybe they want to continue looking at the dog, and so they may engage in behaviors that cause the dog to stay nearby, like perhaps, letting the dog lick their hand or something like that. So they may engage in behaviors that will keep that sight going, the thing that they want to look at. This is really common for babies between about 4 months of age and 8 months of age. This is the perfect time to play peekaboo with a baby, because babies really like interesting sights. And so they will do things to keep that interesting sight going. So if you cover your eyes and then reveal, and they laugh, they're hoping that you will cover your eyes and then reveal. They'll laugh again. And they may continue laughing even in what sounds like a fake way. You know they're doing it to maintain this interesting sight. They want this to continue. In stage 4 of the sensorimotor stage, we're still in the secondary circular reactions phase. We see babies starting to have new anticipations, new adaptations that they're going to start adding in. And this is going to be common between about 8 months and 12 months of age. So they may start to realize if they drop something over the side of their high chair, it makes a splat on the floor. And they want to see if every time they grab something and they drop it over the side of their high chair, does it make that splat? Does it make that interesting thing that I want to see again? Maybe if I take my food and I drop it, it makes the splat and then the dog comes over and eats it. Right? Like, this is really entertaining. So I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to adapt behaviors that have been used for something else in the past in order to maintain these interesting events. And so this secondary circular reaction phase is focused in on trying to keep these exciting things happening. It's no longer about pleasure. It's about exciting, interesting, stimulating things. Now, the last big stage is the tertiary circular reaction stage, and there are 2 substages to that. In the tertiary phase, you see babies trying to understand. They're doing this very beginning of understanding how the world works through the explorations that they're engaging in. So tertiary circular reactions in stage 5 are going to take the form of experimentation. They're going to try things out and see what effect it has on the environment, whether it makes a mess, maybe it makes my parent tell me to stop that. That's very exciting. I haven't been told to stop things before. I'm just a baby. So when my parent is saying, no, 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 I'm trying to process what this new information is. So we see this between about 12 and 18 months of age, where you have what Piaget calls these little scientists who are trying to figure out how the world works. So a baby in the bathtub, they may be filling their little cup that we all know to put in the baby's bathtub with them, and they're pouring it over themselves, maybe pouring it under, on their sibling, and then they pour it out of the bathtub. And the parent might say, no, no, we keep the water in the bathtub. Well, our little scientist needs to experiment how consistent that feedback really is. So what if I only pour out a little? What if I pour it out over here versus over there? What if I pour some that has soap bubbles in it? Will that cause you to still say the same thing? So parents oftentimes will see this experimentation as defiance. I told you not to do that. And yet the child is still doing it. But the child is experimenting. The child's trying to figure it out. Our final stage in the sensorimotor stage is under the tertiary circular reaction phase. And we're going to be now trying to understand how the world works by combining multiple states of mind, multiple factors in our mind. So Piaget called that mental representation or mental combination that's occurring in largely 18 to 24-month-old babies. You're going to tend to see this towards the very end of the infancy period, where babies are starting to maybe make a plan for what they want to do. So maybe you've left your baby alone for a second, had the nerve to maybe try and use the bathroom by yourself, and when you come back, the baby has taken their little push cart that was designed to help them learn to walk. They've pushed it up against the, let's say, where the TV or the gaming station or whatever is, and you've put everything up where the baby can't reach it. But nope, the baby pushed their little cart over, they've climbed up on the cart, they're standing on a shelf, and they are just about to grab your electronics. This is a baby who planned that out. They thought, I want that, what will get me close enough? This is a baby who has moved into this final stage of the sensorimotor period where they're able to combine multiple ideas so that they can achieve their goals. So they become a little bit dangerous during this part of their lives, but they're trying things out. So first they plan it now. Rather than just pouring water out of the bathtub like they might have done in stage 5, now they can kind of plan out what they're going to do and see whether reality matches their plan. So this is the beginning of more sophisticated cognition. It's frustrating for parents. It's something that parents oftentimes, try to limit so that their babies aren't crawling up on things that they shouldn't be crawling on and getting into things they shouldn't be getting into, but it's a big sign of cognitive development. There's one more skill that babies need to get under their belt before they can move on to the next stage of cognitive development, and that is object permanence. Object permanence is the baby's realization that objects continue to exist even when the baby can't see the object. This may seem like a given, that objects don't just appear and disappear, but for a baby, they do. If it's out of sight, it's out of existence for a baby who's less than 6 months old. So maybe they have a little rattle in their hand and they're playing with their rattle, and then they lose their grip and the rattle falls down next to their head. It's gone. Where'd the rattle go? Oh well, I guess whatever that stimulus was is gone now because I don't have it anymore. They won't even look for it. It isn't until about 8 months of age that babies will actually start looking for an object that they no longer can see, even if you hide it right in front of them. So if you take an object and you place it underneath a towel and cover it while the baby watches, by about 8 months old, most babies will just pull the blanket and get the toy. But if you distract them, put a blocker in front of their face while you hide it, they will not. Even at 8 months old, they will not search for it. They have to see it being hidden. That's the very beginning of object permanence, is seeing you cover it and recognizing that it still exists. This is one of the things that makes peekaboo so fun, is that when I'm 6 months old, I'm not sure where you went. I'm not sure what's making you come back. By 8 months old, they're like, I saw where you went. I saw what's happening. It's still fun, but I'm starting to figure out your trick. And so they start to realize I can just look behind the block. I can look under the blanket. As children progress in object permanence, you can actually start to test how well they understand object permanence by using a technique called the A not B technique. In this technique, you have 2 blankets lying in front of the baby. You take an object that the baby's very interested in and you place it under one of the blankets. We'll call that one A. The other blanket we'll call B. Babies who are 8 months old will pull blanket A and get the object. We will do several trials with the baby where we put the object, cover it with blanket A, baby pulls blanket A and gets the object. Several trials to ensure that they understand what's happening. Then right in front of the baby, instead of putting it under A, on the next trial, you put it under blanket B. Here's where babies are really revealing that they don't quite understand object permanence yet. They will pull blanket A even though the object is under blanket B. And they may be staring at blanket B the entire time that they're pulling blanket A. It's like they feel like they have to pull blanket A in order to reconjure up the object that they know full well is under blanket B. That shows that they don't have a full understanding of object permanence. They still think that they somehow are conjuring up the object through the act of pulling blanket A. So it isn't until about 12 months of age that babies have a good, solid understanding of object permanence, and they stop committing the A not B error, where they continue to look under A even though they know the object's under B. By 12 months old, we have babies who you can say to them, "Where is your shoe?" And they will walk around the house. They may not be a great searcher, but they will walk around the house looking for their shoe. They know the shoe exists. They know they should be able to find the shoe. They can conjure up an image of what the shoe must look like, and they will come back with something that could be the shoe. They will search for it. That shows that they understand that the object continues to exist. Now, these are going to be big, important leaps for babies because they're going to have implications for things like separation anxiety, where babies don't want to be away from their caregivers. And part of the reason why is because they're not sure what they need to do to get their caregiver to reappear. Their caregiver is just an object. And so they're not exactly sure what they did last time to get the caregiver to come back. And they're not sure they can do it again. What if they don't do it right? The caregiver never reappears. So for babies, getting object permanence is a huge leap forward in understanding how the world works. So object permanence, this ability to experiment and hold multiple concepts in your mind at one time, These are big factors in enabling children to move to the next stage. The last big factor that must occur before babies can move to the next stage of cognitive development is language. Being able to use words to substitute for objects and events and experiences. And so once babies have some words, they don't have to have full fluency in the language, but once they have some words, they have object permanence, and they're able to hold multiple mental concepts in their head at one time, they move into the next stage of development, which is what we will talk about in the next video, which is the pre-operational stage of development.